means the same to all people, and we shouldn't waste people's time. Those are the things that I would say. And I would say also, it's important to not, when we're convening, is to not waste a lot of people's time on, and this is going to sound sad or crazy, and please forgive me, on our story. Because I see a lot of places where you come and it is about that person's story, and that's not fair. I'll stop.
And I will take a moment, Eileen. You ask a poignant question for me because I suck at this. I'm old and I suck. And it's because I come from the kind of privilege Tracy is talking about, where, it is the most important thing to me, and I can give it all my time. And I have learned how to make group agreements and to adhere to them. And it still troubles me when there is not enough time to accomplish the important stuff that's got to get accomplished. It still to this day troubles me, even when the group agreements are there. I have not figured out how to be at peace with insufficient resource of time in relation to what matters so much to me and the people in the room. Mm-hmm. I've learned to chill a little bit more about it so I don't make people feel as shitty, but it is an issue of constant negotiation for me at this point, because my aspirations are usually higher than the realities of the situations can really navigate. And it makes me sad that we actually have to leave things incomplete or do them not quite as well, because time issues got away from us. And one thing I'll say to all teaching artists, one of the things I've become urgent about in my latter years is that teaching artists need to speak more concisely. When we get people's attention, we have to be able to deliver the goods more efficiently. We're very good at making 7 points. We're not so good at making the 2 points that will make the difference. So when I get to do leadership work with teaching artists, that's a key area where we practice speaking concisely for greater impact as a habit of mind. So there's my poignant confession, Aileen.
Speaking of time, we're at like 5 minutes or so until we're about to take our lunch break, but we have a question from Matt H.
Hi, my name is Matt. I use he, him, his. I also just graduated, so a lot of my idea, so much is resonating with me in terms of how we start this work. Tracy, your comments on you have to be able to walk in the community that you work in is so it just struck so much with me, and I want to live and walk in the community that I work in. But I'm very skeptical about people moving to a new community and saying, I have this framework, I have something I learned in school that I know can help your community, without actually knowing what they want or need. So I was wondering if you both could talk about your experiences with how you go about learning what a community wants and needs before you start an arts project.
Okay, I'll take that, and I'll try to be succinct here. So I used to have an art gallery called Rootwork Gallery in Pilsen, and at different times I've had art spaces in my home and different places I've lived. When I moved there because I wanted to start an art space that would show art, a particular type of art, especially first, give people their first shows. People of color, because I know how hard that is. But I didn't do it immediately. I took time to be in the community, to get to know my neighbors. There was a lot of my neighbors were houseless. They were homeless folks. And just to get to know everybody in the community. The community was in a state of gentrifying, not like it is today, but I started to, so I'll say that there was a guy that lived in the neighborhood, and I will say that after I opened the gallery in earnest, I would always reference him as the third curator. My grandmother, who's deceased, was the person who encouraged me to make art. She thought that making art was the highest thing that you can do with your time, coming from the rural South, and my family has that belief. To this day, I'm trying to interrogate where that comes from, because they consistently tell me that they're happy that I have the kind of gigs that I have if it makes me happy, but that they're not going to feel really happy about my life unless I go back to being an artist. And these are people who have like really blue collar jobs. And I keep, it's funny because other people are like, Art, I know you must be, your family's excited, you're excited. And I'm like, no, they're really not. They're the opposite of excited if you talk to them. But what was important for me was to observe the community and what its needs are, and to be a part of the community and to be accepted. And so what ended up happening is that as I started to make shows, this neighbor that I have, I'm not going to call his name to preserve his privacy, because he would come to a lot of things and he would stand in the back. He's a very quiet man, but he would read things and he would send me email and say, you should have this at the gallery, or I saw this, but the next thing you should do is this at the gallery. And so I would always say, whenever he was here, well, my third curator is here, and I just want to give him a shout out. It was a co-curation that we were doing that made me feel legitimate. And I'll say I moved from there to Pullman, and I moved to a space that has a storefront. People immediately were like, are you going to start the gallery again there? And I'm like, I'm just going to see what happens, because it'll be about almost 2 years that I've been in this community, and I'm just beginning to understand. I was invited by the Parks District to be the artist in residence for this neighborhood, and COVID interrupted that, but I saw that as, I only accepted that on top of everything else I'm doing as an opportunity to get to know. So I want to say to you, Matt, because it's on my heart to say to you and Simona and a few other people, I want to say this: the thing that you desire is also calling you. That's what I know about energy. I just know that now, because I'm starting to get older too, and I begin to understand that. So, but it also means observation and mutual respect, because you don't know yet how to be. If you move from here to someplace else, you don't know how to be there. Let the space itself, in addition to the people, but all spaces have energy because they have been acted upon, and even they have an intentionality. And we know that because we observe their cycles, the things that don't depend on us, like when things bloom and when they decay. You know what I'm talking about. But I would say a space that's calling, that you feel that longing for, is also calling you. But just be respectful and pace yourself.
And that's beautiful. I would add, Tracy, you're reminding me of a moment in the first International Teaching Artist Conference. So there's teaching artists from 26 countries, and a presentation is being made by a teaching artist from Tanzania. And she started her presentation with these words. Well, in Tanzania, when an artist is going to work with a community, she moves there for a year and then begins her work. And man, all the teaching artists from Western countries, it was like they were blown back in their chairs by the simple, committed wisdom of that sentence. So I'm not suggesting, Matt, you got to go move there for a year before you start, but spiritually, you got to move there for a year before you know how to serve what they really need. And Mari has a lovely little comment in our chat box where she's talking about some of the things you do that comprises listening. She's got hang, chill, meet, greet, smile, acts of service, listen to the stories, be curious about the life of that community. And out of that, your relationship to it arises clear. And that's mostly going to be because they tell you what it is, not because you have a big idea of what you can do for them. And when it begins with that kind of mutuality and affection and humanness, what rises is the stuff that will make a difference.
Willa?
Yeah, I could listen to you all day, but I think that's a beautiful stopping place for us right now. I want to really just thank you both so incredibly much, Tracy and Eric, for spending this time with us, for giving us your wisdom and for lifting up our spirits in this kind of way and giving us a challenge to really do greater than what we are often called to do. Be greater than what we are often called to do. Michael?
I echo that. It's great to spend the time with you. Eric, talk soon. Tracy, talk soon.
Yes.
And it's really generous of you. So thank you for joining us.
Well, and Willa and Michael, thanks so much for creating events like this where, we can have a whole bunch of colleagues gather and focus on that which matters and make some movement. I mean, this is how change happens. And thank you for being the catalysts of that change. It's a treat to have some time with this many colleagues.
Thanks, Eric.
Hey, be well. It's wonderful to meet you, Eric. Be well, everybody.
Stay healthy. And Willa, why don't we use this moment just to invite everybody to take their hour lunch break starting right now.
Absolutely. And we'll see you. I will be back at 1 for those of you who wanted to have that kind of conversation. So
I will join.
Yep.
And we'll see you at 30, all of you post-lunch. And Willa, shall you and I get on the phone?
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Eric and Tracy.
Ciao.
Ciao.